what's up guys? Welcome back to another Trevor's MMA. Let's roll the intro, baby. It's your boy Trevor back with another MMA breakdown, and in today's video we're talking about, guess what? Nick Diaz is looking in real phenomenal shape. I'm talking, he's looking ripped. He's looking in the best shape of his life. He's wanting to come back and throw down and get down with the get down, okay? He wants to go out there, and we know the Diaz brothers are basically on that range of fighting in their career where they only want big fights and they will only take big fights. And Carloscondit on MMA Fighting, they reported that he is okay with settling the deal, settling the score with Nick Diaz, saying, hey, well, apparently a lot of people back then said Nick Diaz won the fight. Some people said Carlos won the fight. Some people said Carlos was just running around the cage, and it wasn't the fight that people thought it would be. He was sticking him, and he would hit, and then he would move out the way, and then Diaz would say, come on, and he would just go stick, 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 and move out the way. Stick, 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 move out the way. So Carlos was like, hey, we could settle the deal because both of these fighters are at the end of their career. So who would you think would win this fight? Is it going to be Carloscondit, which hasn't fought in a very long time? Nick Diaz hasn't fought since UFC, like 151 when he fought against Anderson the Spider Silva. And we know what happened in that incident. To be honest with you guys, I think this will be a great aspect for the fighting world. I think we should be able to see this fight before these two guys end up finishing their careers and retiring for good. Diaz and Carlos are at the end of their career. The only fights they have left in them are like big money fights, and that's it. Diaz, like I said, from the pictures that I've seen, he just looks like a beast. He looks super jacked, super ripped, and just looks like he's wanting to F somebody up. So for me, seeing him in that aspect of being a beast, looking in the best physical shape he's ever been, the most muscular shape he's ever looked in his life, I believe this is going to be a fight that Dana White needs to make. Carloscondit versus Nick Diaz 2. And we can see if it's going to be a similar fight or if Nick Diaz is going to come out there and win. Some people are saying, well, Nick Diaz should fight somebody like Jorge Masvidal. I think that would be a good fight, but I think at the career of where Nick is at right now in his MMA career and hasn't fought in 4 years, it would just be better to fight somebody else who hasn't fought in like 3 or 4 years, to be completely honest with you. And I think Carloscondit, like I said, is the guy that will give Diaz a fight, and it's not just going to be a complete brawl beatdown like Nick, like his younger brother Nate had when he fought Jorge. Jorge just murdered him, just made it look not even a contest. So for myself, we know what Diaz is capable of: the tremendously good boxing, the good jiu-jitsu, the outrageous cardio for days. This dude never gasses out. You never see a Diaz brother huffing and puffing. They just keep coming forward. They're trash talking. They're up in your arms. Stockton, bitch, Stockton. And they keep coming forward at all costs. They're not afraid to come forward and walk their opponents down. And that's one thing I like about Diaz. They don't back down, and they're not scared. They're true fighters. They say they're going to come and beat your ass, and that's what they do. But they do it in a way that they break their opponents down. They'll get you up against the cage. They'll bomb on you with little pitter-patter punches, and they gash you out with these little punches. And Frank Shamrock was the first guy to say he was overwhelmed because he would hit Shamrock and go, come on, bitch. Hit him again. Come on, bitch. And Frank was like, what do you, like, really? You're shit talking me and we're in a fight and you're just punching me, come on, bitch. And a lot of these fighters aren't used to somebody doing that. And when you say, when you're hitting them, ah ha ha, bitch, they get flustered and they get emotional and they start coming forward. But because they're throwing all their heavy leather punches at their opponent, they gas himself out. Carloscondit, on the other hand, he's been in there with Diaz, and he knows what to expect. He has good cardio, really good kickboxing. I think he has some of the most unique kickboxing in the game. He's trained with Cowboy Donald Cerrone. He's trained with John Jones. So he's been in there with the big dogs, and he's trained with the best fighters in the world because he comes out of the Greg Jackson camp. And he has great jiu-jitsu. I don't know if the jiu-jitsu is on the level of Nick and Nate Diaz, but he still has high-level jiu-jitsu with great wrestling. That's one thing that the Diaz brothers don't have, is that great wrestling. So Carlos can take him down if he wanted, but I think what Carlos is going to do is stand and bang, and I think Carlos has that kickboxing mentality, that traditional kickboxing style of like a Muay Thai fighter, and Diaz has that traditional boxing fighter stance where you're standing like this and you come forward like this, like a Roy Jones Jr. or a Mike Tyson. But when you look at Carlos Condit, he fights like a Jorge Masvidal, like a fighter like Cowboy Donald Cerrone, where they're heavy, not on their front leg, because they throw kicks and they're throwing elbows and knees, and that's the difference. The Diaz brothers aren't known for throwing a lot of kicks, a lot of knees, a lot of elbows. They're mostly there to throw those punches, and they're great with their punches. That's what they're really known for, is throwing heavy leather and being good, but they throw pitter-patter punches just to mess up their opponents, and then when they get their opponent hurt up against the cage, then they'll rain body shots and combos, and then they can knock you out. Because Diaz brothers have knockout power, it's just they don't use it often because they want to conserve energy, and they can go 25 minutes easily, and they can just wear out their opponents. They've wore out a lot of the top guys, and the best fight for Diaz, when you see him really do what he does, and he does it best, is when he fought Robbie Lawler, beat him up. He beat up BJ Penn, and you see him up against the cage with BJ, just beating BJ down. Paul Daly was another one where he showed he was a top-level fighter, and Diaz's are top-level fighters. It's just over the years, as a fan of the mixed martial arts world, I believe a lot of fighters have figured out the way to beat Diaz's. You don't back down, you come forward, and you throw, and you throw, and you throw, and you throw, and that's what Josh Thompson figured out when he fought against Nate Diaz. He kept throwing and throwing and throwing and coming forward and using that lateral movement, and that's what Diaz's are not used to, is fighters that use that lateral movement and they transition from southpaw to orthodox. They're not used to that. They're just used to guys coming forward and they just throw down, and when they get like in a boxing match where there's no kicks involved, the Diaz brothers are usually the ones to win, because Diaz's are the guys that can throw down, and they have heavy leather, and they are more of a traditional, like Mike Tyson style boxing. They don't really have a lot of that head movement, but they have really good hands. And a lot of professional boxers that have trained with the Diaz's, they say they are top level boxers, but they do it in the MMA world. As always, guys, this has been another Trevor's MMA. I would say my personal opinion is Diaz is gonna win this fight, but I would not be surprised if Carlos Condit does what Carlos does, stick and move, use the lateral movement, and wins this fight by points. But hey, will it be on Fight Island? Will it be in front of a crowd again? We don't know. Some people are speculating crowds might come back to sporting events in March, April timeframe, which would be a year from the last time we've actually had a crowd. I think the last time a UFC crowd was in like March, but actually the last one in the UFC was, I think, like Israel Adesanya versus like Kelvin Gastelum was like the last real major fight that I think really had a crowd, and it was in a big arena. Instead, it's been no crowds, which I think the UFC, what they're doing with no crowds, is very good. I still love watching the fights. I still love it because you still have the cornermen getting hype. So it sounds like there's a little bit of a crowd there, a little bit. But at the end of the day, this fight should happen. Carlos is saying, hey, we can settle the score. We can do what we got to do. We can throw down and get down, if you know what I mean. Let's get in the cage. We both haven't fought in like 2 or 3 years. So it's going to be a rusty fight, but it's going to be a fight for the fans, and the fans probably want to see it, especially when Diaz is saying, hey, I want to come back. you know Dana White's going to say, yes, you're going to come back, you're going to make a good amount of money. And Carlos, he's going to make a good amount of money. And they could headline a pay-per-view, headline a fight, whatever it is, like a fight night. But I think the fight will be big, and I think it will be great. I'm not holding anything against Carlos, and I'm not holding anything against Diaz for being out of the cage for so long. But I will say they both have the chance to win. They both have an even playing field. But I'm a bigger Diaz fan than I am a Carlos fan, even though I love Carlos's style. I will say Diaz all day, every day. So remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. And let me know what you guys think in the comment section below.